And a little dance from Chad Johnson.
We're now in the NFL playoffs, and the race to the Super Bowl is going to start in real earnest as the final teams try and see who is the best among them. However, as both the regular season and playoffs have shown in both the past and the present, players break the rules. A lot. Sometimes in small ways and sometimes in pretty big ways, and it's honestly shocking at times to see whose name is caught up in those events, so allow us to break down NFL players that completely broke the rules. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 8. The New England Patriots. Easily, one of the most controversial things to ever happen in the NFL was the Spygate case. In it, the New England Patriots were accused of going and spying on their soon-to-be Super Bowl opponents in the St. Louis Rams and then filming their practices so that they could be better for what was about to happen game-wise. Years later, this was exposed and a massive investigation happened, the result of which is still talked about to this day, as the Patriots basically got to walk off scot-free. A sign of things to come, as you will soon find out. Number 7. Odell Beckham Jr. The art of the bling is something that many celebrities and athletes have tried to master. They go and get the biggest and brightest and most custom pieces of jewelry ever to try and make things work in their favor and shine brighter than everyone else. And Odell Beckham Jr. has gotten into trouble over the years for the bling that he wears in the games. For example, when he made his debut with the Cleveland Browns, he played the entire game with a watch on his wrist, and this watch was worth over $350,000. Yeah, he was playing a football game with over $250,000 attached to his wrist. Do you think he stopped there? The very next game, he went and wore a watch that was apparently worth $2.2 million. Could you imagine playing a game with that much money on your wrist? Well, the NFL called him out for that big time and fined him for the acts. Not to mention, Odell didn't play that well in those games, and as Warren Sapp noted, you can't wear a $2 million watch and play like a $2 bill. Number 6. Chad Johnson. The career of Chad Johnson is one that is to be acknowledged in various ways, because he was without a doubt one of the more entertaining players to ever take the field.
It's me. I just want to know, how's 35? Horrible. This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want.
Not the least of which was because of the time he had the desire to go and change his name to Chad Ochocinco after his 85 jersey number. But what really made him a character to watch on the football field was that he would get into all sorts of antics when it came to scoring touchdowns. Now, you all likely know a lot of the restrictions that players have when it comes to doing touchdown dances. But one of the rules that cannot be broken is that you can't use props for your dances.
I'm always open.
Chad Johnson didn't care about that at all. In fact, he would try and outdo himself time and time again with the props that he would use, from the pylons to grabbing cameras and so on. He was fined every single time, but he didn't care.
If I get in the end zone, make sure you keep the camera on me. I'm gonna give you your money's worth before I leave today.
Number 5. LA Chargers. A very controversial item in football nowadays is sticky gloves. They're technically not illegal, but they do have to be monitored because the last thing that people need to hear is that a receiver caught a game-winning touchdown solely because the ball stuck to the glove. Head back to 2012 and a bit of a scandal broke out because of the stickiness of the gloves on the San Diego Chargers, now the LA Chargers. Apparently, an attendant was refusing to hand over towels used by the players to a referee for examination. Yes, this is a rule, and when they finally got the towels, they found out they were using Stickum on them to transfer to their gloves to make it much easier to catch the ball. The Chargers were fined $20,000 for this, and the staff member who hid the towels was fired. Number 4. Antonio Brown. Wow, well, what can you say about Antonio Brown? This is the guy who made drama for well over a year because of his various antics on and off the field. In terms of him deliberately breaking the rules, you can head to this very short-lived stint with the Raiders, where he went and refused to follow NFL guidelines about the helmets that he was allowed to wear. Or you could just head to his also short-lived time with the Patriots, where he blew off the media when he was required to talk with them. And this says nothing of what he did off the field that was also very reprehensible. In short, Antonio Brown disgraced the NFL, its rules, and its beliefs, and he deserves to be out of the league. Number 3. Alvin Kamara. This is a very special entry because it's very much in recent history, and it all has to do with what one player would wear to a game. You see, the New Orleans Saints were up against the Minnesota Vikings, and Alvin Kamara just went off. Now, it's possible because they were playing on Christmas, and it's possible because he was wearing some very auspicious red and green cleats, but either way, he went off and scored not 1, not 2, not 4, but 6 rushing touchdowns all on his own. Now think about that. There are running backs who don't get a single touchdown in several games, and he went and got 6 in one. Anyway, the reason we're mentioning this was because everyone was quoting Spike Lee by saying, "Gotta be the shoes." And no doubt those shoes are perfectly preserved by Kamara because they're now a part of NFL history. He tied the record for the most rushing touchdowns by a running back in history, a record that was set in the 1920s. Well, where's the rule break? Simple. Players are not allowed to wear specialized items like those shoes. Yes, they were just red and green, but they're not approved apparel. As such, Kamara was fined $5,000 for wearing them. Though we all know that he didn't care, and the shoes are worth at least 10 times that now because of the record he set. Number 2, Tom Brady. There are many classic Tom Brady rule-breaking moments that we could note here, but not all of them involve him directly or feature dumb rules, so we'll give him a pass on all but this one, because this was Deflategate. Yes, and one of the most infamous moments in NFL history during the AFC Championship game, no less. Something weird went on. During a battle with the Indianapolis Colts, Tom Brady threw an interception. It happens, so you move on, right? Except that the Colts player that felt the ball didn't seem right, so he gave it to the ref. Turns out, Tom Brady asked for the balls to be slightly deflated to fit his preferences. This caused a scandal because the Colts cried foul that the balls were being altered to help the Patriots and Brady win while they were playing fair. And to be clear, there is a rule that says NFL footballs must be pressurized to 13 psi, nothing above or below. So to be fair, the Patriots were fined heavily because of this, but the game verdict stood and they still went to the Super Bowl. Number 1, the Denver Broncos quarterbacks. Alright, this one at first might seem a little odd, especially since we're not naming the quarterbacks in question, but that is not the issue here. You see, this set of players comes from this very season, the season of the NFL that had to be monitored heavily because of the global pandemic. Teams were instructed to follow very strict rules in order to go and be safe, and sure enough, a lot of teams failed, including big-name teams like the Patriots and the Browns, who played a playoff game without their coach due to him getting infected. But the biggest rule-breaking moment that arguably affected a team happened to the Denver Broncos, because not 1, not 2, but 3 of their quarterbacks broke the protocols during a practice where they were supposed to wear masks, and thus they were prohibited from playing the next game. Now, if you can't tell, most teams don't have more than 3 quarterbacks on their roster. As such, they paid a guy with previous football experience about $30,000 to come and suit up for one game. He threw the ball 7 times and made 1 completion. That just went to show just how sad certain athletes can be because those quarterbacks knew the protocols and yet totally broke the rules, and their team paid the price and were embarrassed as a result. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at NFL players, both past and present, who have gone and broke the rules despite it being very clear that they shouldn't have just done that? Were you surprised by some of the players on the list who have broken the NFL's rules? Were you shocked by how trivial some of these rules were that were broken? Do you know any other major players out there that have broken the rules and gotten caught? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.